Hello there, you beautiful people. My name is Willow, and welcome back to Supreme Commander Forged Alliance Forever for a 1v1 pro-level ladder cast on a map made for this game, and this game only. It is, of course, the Neuroxis map generator, fully RNG, fully random map that neither of these players have seen before. And before we get into introducing players, of course, with the red player on the right and the blue player on the left, I'd like to mention you may notice the sound of wind in the background. I have to play with the fan on. It's way too hot outside for me to currently be recording casts without the fan on, as of course I would die. I don't have air conditioning here. So let's get into player introductions, starting with the Red Seraphim going worst faction, and of course first land at a grand old rating of 1676. It is none other than Weed Warrior. And then, of course, over to the west in the blue, we're going to be seeing a dark blue Seraphim player. Seraphim on Seraphim violence, my favorite kind. And, of course, him going worst faction with 1953 rating behind his name. He is none other than The Wreck, otherwise known as, I think that's Farms? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Farms. And, of course, we're going to go ahead and go in here, show you all their build orders. Let's see how these players perform. There is quite a rating difference between them. The Weed Warrior over here giving up 300 rating to his opponent. But of course, anything can happen. And of course, let's go ahead and check in on what they're doing. We have both of them going for first land, second air, both going for a Hydro Rush. But the Wreck, as we can expect here, a little bit cleaner on the build, a little bit quicker. Of course, Weed Warrior did get up his mass extractors quicker, but the more important thing here is going to be getting up these power generators so he can get his air factory online and protect against a bomber, or even get out that early bomber or a transport or anything. Of course, these builds will not allow for a transport. You need 5 is pushing it for risky for getting yourself your transport, but 6 is kind of the safe zone for building a transport with one of these builds. And of course, we're going to go ahead and see the Wreck switch right on over, and he is going for that bomber, so we're going to have an early bit of aggression going on here. And let's go ahead and turn the minimap back on, hit the end key, which resets the camera, and see what's going on. We have 3 Selens out on the field. Of course, Weed Warrior wanting to get all the information he can, and he has opted to move his commander, which is quite the little play here, moving the commander out so early compared to his opponent. Usually in these higher rated games, you see the commander, they sit around the base a little bit longer because these pros can leverage that extra build power so much better than the average Joes or most of the people watching this video right now. Of course, though, with Weed Warrior moving out a little bit sooner, he's going to have his forward base online that little bit faster, and we're gonna have to see if that plays any role in this. We're now currently watching this bomber fly around. It did just pass over a couple of Selens. Is it gonna decide to turn around to fight the Selens? No, in fact, it's gonna be caught out by Weed Warrior's righteous interceptor and taken down to the ground. Seraphim on Seraphim action. Everybody wins when it's Seraphim dying, so of course we're seeing some very juicy trades here. A little bit of an air fight about to take place, and right now, the Wreck, with that bomber play, it was a risky play, and he is going to be set behind by this. In fact, a transport already out for Weed Warrior. Weed Warrior coming out swinging in this game. He is looking strong, as he, of course, has his transport out, and the Wreck does manage to get engineers out to the edges a little bit faster. I think he sent more of his engineers out to expand than that of Weed Warrior, but now Weed Warrior, he has his own bomber in the air. He got a bit of an air win. Maybe he can find a clumping of engineers, especially right here. This would be a high-value bomb, as the Wreck would need to replace those engineers, but we're gonna have to see exactly what he does. Unfortunately, he's about to fly that bomber right over a tank. Yep, that is going to immediately get a response out of these interceptors, and if it doesn't, oh, the Wreck doesn't see it! Oh, the Wreck making a critical error, but he's gonna go back and try and bomb the tank? Okay, well, you know what? I'm trying to hype things up, I'm trying to predict the future, and I should just put my crystal ball away, because Weed Warrior is just not playing the way I would have expected. He did have a scout over that base where he saw, like, all of the engineers grouped up, didn't he? I'm not sure. I mean, he's missed 2 bombs on this tank. Like, completely missed. The tank is pretty much full HP. It's taken more damage from a Selene than this bomber. Oh, no! It's a disaster! This tank is just gonna kill this entire expansion unless the engineer... Oh, wait, no, the bomber! It misses again. Oh my lord, it's a calamity. It's a series of unfortunate events for Weed Warrior. It's a novel designed for teenagers, and it is going pretty good for the wreck. He's even managed to get veterancy on this tank, so it's going to regenerate HP. Is the bomber finally going to hit it? Oh my... A little late, Jerry. Gosh. Jerry the bomber. Alright. Everybody, you just tell Jerry how horrible he is. He doesn't need a good self-esteem right now. He doesn't deserve that. Now, of course, despite that, Weed Warrior is keeping up with the wreck, which is very impressive. The wreck is known, of course, for his economic prowess. He is a very economy-focused player. He is very much so the type of player to play Settons and absolutely mop the floor with everybody who isn't 2,000 or higher. Now, of course, he does dabble in all of the other game modes. He plays TMM, he plays ladder, he plays everything, but he has always kept that streak of just reckless abandon with getting economy and economic structures, sometimes to his detriment, but right now it seems to be paying off. He's higher on overall mass income, higher on reclaim, and his power income even is higher. He is just higher on all standards, and I know we don't really look at power income very much, but it is kind of important in these early games. If you're not power stalling, if you're producing the right amount of power, if you are balanced, as we see right now, the wreck perfectly balanced as all things should be. He's not wasting mass, he's not wasting energy, and he is wasting his enemies' units, that is. Although he doesn't really have the great response to all of this aggression now coming out from Weed Warrior, who has gone for a forward 6 factory fire base, and he is starting to throw out units at an alarming rate if you are the wreck. But the wreck now, at that Tech 2 level, now of course going to be able to produce those Ilshivas, those all-rounder assault bots at the Tech 2 phase, and that's going to help him stopgap. It's going to be a stopgap measure to try and get him to that Tech 3 stage where he will be very comfortable. These Tech 1 units very soon going to become obsolete, going to become kind of trash units that you only use for raiding or soaking a little bit of damage because they were left over during your transition to Tech 2. This fight over here, it's going relatively badly for the wreck, but the bad news for Weed Warrior here, all of this reclaim is going to be in territory that isn't really under his own control, and we're now starting to see all of these units are starting to pour in. They're going to try and get into this expansion over here, get into these production facilities. If you can kill off a few factories, it's a very good investment because it does slow down his potential to just kind of retake this area if lost. But does just need to be a little bit careful about doing a possible mass dump. We also have a few bombers now coming in from the wreck. He wants to get in here with some air-to-ground fire support and get rid of these tanks, as he has a nasty Thom infestation here. And of course... Oh! The bombs come in and they all miss! Oh no! It's a disaster! Don't build T1 bombers if you're Seraphim, because they're kind of trash. Oh, but they do finally come landing in, and the damage is undeniably impactful. But this forward production area, I would be very surprised if it gets to survive much longer. And you just see Weed Warrior just continuing to push forward with units, and he is even doing this really cool strategy here. He is dropping engineers right here onto the front lines. He wants to get that reclaim. Go ahead and give the order. Give the attack order, please, Weed Warrior. Make yourself proud. Make everybody watching at home proud. He does it. He does it. Now he's going to get all that reclaim, and we're going to swap over to the reclaim numbers, and you can see Weed Warrior is skyrocketing up compared to the wreck. And now, of course, we have another kind of expansion over here for the wreck, and it's going down. He does have a few Ilshivas now starting to stream in one by one. Needs to be careful not to lose them to the Thoms. And now, of course... Oh, yeah, see, that's what's happened. Listen, I am a big fan of the saying, more shit counters less shit. And of course, the wreck he's getting countered by more shit right now. The Ilshiva is so amazing, but he has to be using that range. He has to group them up. He needs a critical mass. If you walk them in one by one, you will still lose this fight against the Thoms. And with that, the wreck has taken serious damage and is in fact only tying for economy with Weed Warrior, and he has taken such a more heavy focus on ecoing up. Now, of course, if he can secure his borders again, if he can push out and take those mexes again, he will be in a clear advantage. I mean, he even is at a slight advantage right now against Weed Warrior, but Weed Warrior coming in, he's punching above his weight, and he's staying aggressive, which is what you want to see. You don't want to see players getting scared against these higher rated players because they will wipe the floor with you. Now, of course, another big battle taking place right here, and we can just zoom in and get all that action. You can see shots flying. It's Seraphim on Seraphim, but you can basically tell what's going on. The Ilshivas, the Walkie boys here, belong to the wreck, and now he has Volthus, those extremely powerful gunships. He's gotten up to T2 air. It's a big development for him right now, as that's going to really help him shore up his defenses, shore up his territory, and get back into this game from a map control standpoint. And these tanks that were dropped down here, they killed off the factory that was here, or maybe it was already dead. And now they're trying to clean this up, but there's already an Ilshiva over here to stop that eventuality from happening. But Weed Warrior, undeterred, still pushing forward, still trying to get aggressive towards his opponent. Has he gone T2 land yet? No, he hasn't, but he has gone T2 air. And he is ecoing up aggressively behind all of this. You can see all of these Ilshivas being built by the wreck, all of this build power being thrown directly into building up these Ilshiva forces. Well, it's taking a bit of a toll on him economically, as he's now 20 mass behind, but he is critically going for a T3 mechs. I told you, the wreck is a very economic focused player, and he will play extremely greedy, and that T3 mechs will pull him out from a deficit here. And the air fight does break out over here. And it does seem as though the wreck, it was either poor micro or he just was massively outnumbered there. And he's going to lose air. And over here to the north, there's a bit of a naval battle going on as both sides got naval factories. And also in the south, oh no, it's a disaster. The wreck has just given up all the territory on the map. Weed Warrior was over here like, how much map control? And the wreck said, yeah, sure, take it all. Actually, it was supposed to be the other way around, that joke, but yeah, you know what, you get it. You get it. Now, critically, there is something developing here that is worrisome for Warrior. 10,000 reclaim right here, and you can just see on his side of the map, there's less than 3, and I mean, if you really zoom in here, there's honestly less than 1. So this reclaim field is going to be extremely important for the game moving forward. Reclaim, of course, every time a unit dies, you see these little wrecks showing up. They are worth 80% of the mass of the original unit. And the mass is what you need to build these units very, very quickly. If you don't have mass in the bank, they're going to build slowly. Now, of course, Natha coming in and going down. Don't even know what it dropped for. If he comes in with a group of Nathas and can manage to get rid of that T3 mechs, that would be huge. And even with all of this, with all of the map control and everything he's doing, he's still massively ahead on eco, and he could afford his own T3 mechs very soon. So it's not like the wreck has made like a masterful play by rushing that T3 mechs. He made the play that keeps him in the game. But he is struggling here against Weed Warrior. And Weed Warrior's overwhelming aggression, and now we have gunships coming in, and this is what I like to see gunships used for. I think this is kind of the primary purpose of a gunship group, is to come in and to raid these positions. Force your opponent to have to get more engineers out onto the field so that way they can come rebuild these mexes. Mexes take 17 seconds to pay off, so if you can do it really quickly, you can even make them waste mass on building mexes. Now, of course, going here into the middle. Now reclaim numbers skyrocketing for Wreck. And the Wreck has more mass gathered this game overall. And that's all down to reclaim right here. But that won't be useful once the reclaim fields kind of run out. T2 land has finished up for Weed Warrior. Does he have any forward factories going T2? No, he doesn't. He's not really going to be able to reinforce against these Ilshivas as easily, but he does have air control. And in come the Nothas, and they're going for a power generator, and oh no, it's a disaster! It goes down, and the Wreck is now plummeting into a power stall situation. He just finished another T2 Pigeon, but he's going to have to throw up a shield over it, and he can't afford to run it, and oh no. This is painful to watch, and Weed Warrior is looking strong right now. Would like to see him. Yes, he is doing it. He's going for a T3 Mex, and he's going for T3 land. Something he knows his opponent just cannot afford right now, and he even has T2 Mexes over on this side. I think he captured it, because I doubt he just built a T2 Mex. And man, oh man, Weed Warrior is a very strong player, stronger than his rating would, in my opinion, show. He's playing closer to the Rex level than I feel the Wreck is right now, because the Wreck is, he's struggling. He's really struggling. He does now, of course, though, he's built up that critical mass of Ilshivas here in the middle, and Weed Warrior doesn't quite have a solution to this just yet. He has a lot of factories going T2, but factories that are going T2 are factories that aren't making T2 units. And he's now going to throw more engineers on transports. Wonder what they're going for. He's also killing off all the periphery mexes and installments with these gunships, getting a lot of value there. But he has to have a solution to this. This is the biggest problem facing him right now. I don't even know how his commander got up here, but it's up here. And he's thrown engineers over here. He needs to start assisting these factories, and he needs to do it yesterday. If these factories go down, it is a very dire situation. He needs to get this T3 done, and he needs to ferry units, and that's what he's going to do. He needs to start ferrying Othams to this front line, because he's not going to have very many units really here to defend. The factories with their 3,500 HP will tank, but not for long. And in comes the invasion of the Wreck. In come all of these units that he's built up over the last few minutes. He's going to get in here and he's going to start dealing real damage down onto this forward production base for Weed Warrior. And in come some gunships to try and help defend. All of these Ilshivas, they're focusing down the factories. He's trying to focus down the production. The gunships came in. They killed off the last remaining flak, so these gunships get infinite damage pretty much. Nothing's going to shoot up and deal with them unless interceptors come in, which honestly the Wreck just doesn't have the capability to really throw those here. He doesn't have the resources to. You just lose all of them. And now these Ilshivas have been pushed back, and critically, this has left a nice chunk of reclaim here, nearly 10,000 for Weed Warrior to scoop up, and he has engineers and build power in the area. He's going to catch up on overall reclaim, and now he's ahead just through sheer generated mass in total mass generated this game. I know that's a weird way to say it, but there's generated mass and then reclaim mass, and it's kind of hard to keep a track of, but he's up to 250 mass per second, multiple T3 mexes, and he is just looking very, very strong here in the mid-game. As we crest the 20-minute mark, you have to start wondering with the economy, with 250 mass a second. Of course, he's going to go into Autumn spam. He's going to keep trying to play for that map control, but when do you try and get up a chicken? When do you get a Yathoda out to try and end this game with one heavy blow? A Yathoda built and then going up through here, through this area, is almost guaranteed to make it into the main base. Unless the Wreck really pulls a rabbit out of a hat here. Now, of course, 273, you won't be building it particularly quickly, but he can take a defensive posture and go for it. Now, of course, Otham's showing up on the front line here for the wreck. He himself has gotten over 200 mass a second now. Otham's now coming off the assembly line very quickly. I'm going to go ahead and take a drink. Make sure you stay hydrated, everybody. Alrighty. And here we go. Weed Warrior now falling back to his production once more. Those Othams producing a threat that he just can't really handle, but he has his own Othams pushing in the south. So if he can manage to hold this, and also, speaking of reclaim, that 9,000 was scooped up real quick. If he can hold against these Othams, he'll be putting himself in a very good position, but I'm just worried he's going to lose his production. He's starting to throw up T1 PD. And he needs his own Othams to show up. He has a couple, but a couple isn't going to get here very quickly. He has all this mass, but it just doesn't seem to be very effective here. This T1 PD in the back will buy some time, but this production hub is all but eliminated now. And you can see the engineers over here for the wreck. They're just slowly pushing up. And as long as he continues to do that, he'll be in a good position. He has his own Othams that were down here to the south, but it seems as though, yeah, they were cleaned up. And, oh no, it's a disaster for Weed Warrior as he loses all of his forward production. And honestly, that was easily 80% of his overall production. And now he is facing a wreck who has really set himself up for success here. He has all of the land production. He's even killing off this naval factory to stop it from possibly going T2 at some point and giving him pain with cruisers. And overall economies, Weed Warrior still very much so in the lead here. But he's going to be losing economy at an unhealthy clip as these Othams and Ilshvas raid him. And he's got some more T1 factories built up. Don't know why you don't just get out a T3 engineer and just immediately make the T3 engineers. Both sides have T3 air. Maybe he's more worried about that, but I'm not sure. It seems like land is a bit more paramount at the moment. You both have ASF. You both can stop a strat bomber or two. And this is dangerous. He needs to deal with this. He does see it on radar. He needs desperately, though, to get something out over there to deal with it. And now he's going to send a few Volthus, but they're going to take a while to chew through this. And this could very easily kill off the majority of his T3 mexes. This is dangerous for Weed Warrior. In the middle, he's trying to push, but I don't know if he has the numbers. And, of course, these Athanas are going to be a problem. These T3 mobile shield generators with, of course, 10,000 HP. That's a lot of HP to have to chew through, and he's just going to lose that army there. I think it would have been better to chase down the enemy Othams and Ilshvas up here with that. Luckily, though, has managed to ward away these units from just going for the Hail Mary and killing off these mexes. Could have at least gotten one, I feel. But now, of course, the wreck coming in with the sneaky plays. Will it be spotted out, or will this land is the question. And it's going for the production in the back. Our ASF scrambled. You need to scramble him now. He can see it. It's in plain view for all to see. Oh, but he might have scrambled just a little bit too late. He has his gunships and his bombers heading out over here. The Othams do land. And they're gonna start dealing damage. How many mexes can they get? If they don't get the mexes themselves, this isn't a bad situation for Weed Warrior. The mexes are what's of true value here. The mass storage is relatively cheap at this stage in the game to replace. One T3 mechs going down. Two T3 mechs going down. Three T3 mechs. Oh? Oh no. Oh, three T3 mechs going down. And that was brutal. And over here to the south, Wreck is just raiding everywhere. And he now has over 100 mass lead against Weed Warrior in such a short time. He's just turned the turntables so effectively. And now we're looking at a situation where Weed Warrior, who was by far and away ahead this entire game, he is now in a position where it's looking a little bit hopeless. We're looking at situations where he may have to go for a Hail Mary, him losing this forward production and really not dropping the ball with that drop, which, I mean, I feel like it had to fly over a frigate too. He might not be playing with a mini-map, or he just wasn't zoomed out enough to catch that. He must have been doing something. He's falling apart here at the seams. Of course, nothing is over just yet. He can get back into this game. He can recover. And one big thing with recovering here is, let's just check, 7,000-ish reclaim in his base. He will be able to use that quite effectively if he so pleases. But now, how do you win the game? Where do you go from here? I think that Weed Warrior most likely just has air control. He's up to 24 ASF versus the Wreck on 29. No, he doesn't even have air control. If he had that, I would say you could go for some form of air attack. The Wreck over 432, or exactly at 432 mass a second. Overall reclaim numbers, 39 for Weed Warrior, 37,000 for Wreck. Total mass generated, Weed Warrior has been ahead, but kill to loss ratio, Weed Warrior is performing poorly. He's just not as efficient with his units. A little raiding Elsheva over here. And Weed Warrior has built a chicken. I talked about it earlier. I talked about the possibility of it. Is there a response to this in Wreck? I mean, honestly, he should have seen that going up. So he should have some kind of response planned for that. But a chicken is a big deal right now, especially if he just throws it through one of these pawns and then tries to use it for nefarious purposes of just subverting the entire army. But also if he just combines it with as many Othams and as much air as he can, could be big. Huge air fight brewing here, and this air fight is critical. Weed Warrior should not take this. Weed Warrior does not want the air fight. Don't go for it. Oh no, if he loses it. Air fight turns are going okay. The interceptors will help out a lot here, as any shot that goes into an interceptor isn't going into one of the ASFs of Weed Warrior. But he loses. And oh no, it's a disaster. The issue with that is, when you get an experimental, when you get this big piece of power, one of the biggest ways to deal with all of these extreme groupings of land units, and especially experimentals, is air. He just lost air. He gave precedent over to Wreck. Wreck can now spend all of his economy, and you can see him already doing it, or a lot of his economy right now. He can start just producing Volthus and not worry about falling behind as far as air is concerned. And you can now see this chicken, it's slowly whittling down this army, and the Wreck needs to respond. He needs to move forward or run away. He's running away. Loses quite a few units for it, though. For the slow reaction there. And now, Weed Warrior, he's showing up with the big army. He's bringing in everything. He's going for a haymaker. He's going for a home run hit. And honestly, if he just gets in and kills off these 3 expansions, this one, and this one, he's in a good position. I would honestly send the chicken in a route like this, because if you kill off these, you're getting an economic advantage for that already. You're already going to be an economic advantage. Now, of course, he can't know whether or not he will be, but I think going for the main base is the risky play here. Your opponent could be building a chicken and he could be building it quick, although could be the home run play. But now that the Volthus come in, this chicken is on a timer. This chicken dies eventually. I mean, he can come in and he can probably wipe the Volthus out with a wave of ASF, but he loses his ASF. But no! Flak comes in. He's in a strong position. He needs to push. He needs to push, and he needs to push now. Go! Go, Weed Warrior, go! Don't play chicken now. Pun intended. Don't get afraid now. Now is your time. Now is where you push. And he needs to do that. He needs to keep being aggressive. He's just giving time right now to the Wreck to build his own chicken. That is... That's it's a rough situation now, because if he pushes forward and that chicken finishes, although it doesn't seem the Wreck thinks he'll finish the chicken in time. He's now going for PD. Yet again, I'd go for these expansion bases. I'd just go for the economic damage. Needs to get the ASF on this again. Although the chicken does have 3 ranks of veterancy, it will regenerate most of this HP pretty quickly. And he's getting a lot of economic damage down here. Both players at insanely high economies. Chicken getting scared yet again. And I'm just worried about him. But over here to the north, it seems as though either this was just a walk or maybe a drop is come in, and it's just going to hit this vulnerable section of eco yet again. Weed Warrior gonna take more damage from these Authams that just keep getting in his backline. I don't think they're gonna get any T3 mexes, not with this many T1 bombers around, but those 2 T1 mexes, or T2 mexes, gonna go down there, and he's also gonna get mass storage, which has its own value to it. But the chicken is slowly dying. It's just wave of Volthu after wave of Volthu coming in, dealing its damage. And then also the occasional Autumn showing up. I don't understand playing so scared with it. Maybe I would have already lost it by now, but I just feel like you had the Hail Mary, you had the swing there. You're not taking it, and now he's keeping an Autumn right behind that chicken. And unless the chicken can't vet anymore, so it goes down. Does he have another one? He's about to, so he's not going to be left without an experimental, where the Wreck has just masterfully managed to do that, and that was indecisiveness. I feel like any decision other than waffling around back and forth was the better choice there. But now out comes all of these T1 bombers, and they're just attack moving. They're gonna get some damage down, but it's not gonna do too much. And now working on a nuke launcher is Weed Warrior. There's already an anti-nuke currently for the wreck. Now, critically, I don't understand. Does Weed Warrior would he understand that he has an air advantage? Yes, he should. He should have a good idea of where the air game is at right now. Especially since the wreck isn't even contesting these things. I think you snipe the anti-nuke. I think you build up 10, 15... Oh, sorry for everybody. That was a stream alert. 1 second. Let me go ahead and turn those off. Well, either way, thank you, Joe No Mercy, for your 6 months of channel membership, and let's get right back into this. Now, of course, he should know he has air advantage, and I think he definitely still has the bigger air grid. I mean, he's had it for most of the game. 8 or 9 air factories versus 13. I feel like you go for some strat bombers here. The chicken-on-chicken battle should go your way. As we have a scuffed cast. Although the chicken-on-chicken battle is not going his way currently. Huh. Well, that's not good for Weed Warrior. Yeah, that is very bad. Because there's going to be another chicken very soon. And now the wreck. He's getting in here now with hover tanks and raiding. And Weed Warrior, he has the better economy. He's sitting in a good position. He needs to go for a snipe on the anti-nuke, which he should know exists. You have air control. You should definitely have spotted that. And it's looking bad. It is not looking good. I mean, Weed Warrior, he has this very nice economic lead, but his mass just isn't worth the same. He's not getting as much value out of his units, and he's constantly being spread thin, it would seem. That's just one T3 shield over that anti-nuke. It really isn't too horrible to try and snipe it. And in comes the Ythota. Or I guess it's Ythotha, or Ythotha. It's weird. And there's now 2 of them on the field. This one, with its veterancy, it's getting back up to a healthy state. I mean, do you just nuke? I mean, I'm pretty sure this anti-nuke, I mean, it covers most of where you want to nuke, Weed Warrior. Covers most all of it. So you have to get rid of it, and you have to notice it if you want a chance of winning this game. Although maybe he's not counting on winning with nukes, but still, it's a huge investment to not count on it being successful. Now we have a bunch of Natha fighter bombers coming in. They're killing off the hover spam on the water. The wreck, he's sitting on 147 ASF. Weed Warrior at 177. He has air. And he's gonna go for an Awasa. That is a big brain play. And I think he might have enough T1 bombers here. Or T2 bombers. He has 41. If they all drop, I'm pretty sure that's just a kill onto this onto this SMD, but he's flying them over a bunch of cruisers. That's not the play. He has his own 2 chickens. Nice Authas, thanks. Most of them going down there. He had 41 whenever I first checked. Now he has 29. Probably still enough to get through and kill off that SMD. That's a lot of T1 PD built up there. I feel like a few T2 would be a good addition, but he doesn't have the build power there to build that right now. And he's sitting on a very strong economy. That Awasa is going up quick. And the big thing about the Awasa is you can drop bombs on stuff like this, and you can very, very effectively kill all of the Othams, and once they're down, the chickens will fall to them eventually, especially with their own chicken support. Now it's 3 Athothas versus 2, and Weed Warrior needs to be careful. He needs to stop pushing forward. He needs to fall back right now. And he does. He recognizes that, and he gets out of dodge. Natha's coming in. A huge drop right here, but unfortunately they just miss most of their shots. Nathas can just be dodged by literally everything, it would seem. But the Awasa is about to be done, and it can change the effect of this fight if it finishes in time. Here we go with the big fight. First chicken going down already for Weed Warrior. And a chicken also goes down for the Wreck. But the Wreck has more chickens to spare. I think that was all the Nathas going down. The Wreck at 203, Weed Warrior at 213. The air fight breaks out, but they're over a bunch of flak for the Wreck, and that might just be enough to sway this one way or the other. ASF for Weed Warrior, they're clumping up a little bit more. I don't know if that's better or worse for their micro. But there's the Awasa. I think the air fight was a good call regardless. And oh no, the Wreck stops microing his ASF and he's just going to get wiped. And in comes the Awasa bomb. Sure, they're going to take a lot of flak damage, but that's a lot of flak going down. And now these chickens out from the Wreck are just going to be a wasted investment as long as they're forward. Of course, that Awasa needs to be microed very well. But it can deal with that, and this one should just go down anyways. The Wreck's still just making experimentals. Yet again, when do you go for the snipe onto that SMD? I feel like that's a play, and that's a play you should make relatively soon. He's going for the flak yet again. And so far he's holding, but now he's behind economically. Although that air advantage is going to be difficult to come back to deal with for the Wreck. Like, how do you ever push forward? How do you ever get reclaim? Although I feel like Weed Warrior could be a little bit more aggressive with his bombs. He's just hitting things like reclaiming engineers and flak. Doesn't feel like he's going for anything extremely high in value. Sniper bots are going to start killing off all this, and he needs to get his own engineers reclaiming. I mean, seems like he hasn't really been focused on reclaim as much as he needs to be. He's now starting to just mass produce chickens. He's using this Iwasa. The Iwasa is taking up a lot of his focus. These sniper bots, they're going to be brutal to deal with. I mean, they're even going to be able to help deal with chickens. If you micro them properly, they'll be able to kill chickens almost by themselves. Once you get a critical mass of them. In comes the Iwasa bomb. Down goes all of those mexes. And seems as though the wreck is committing. But was it too little? Definitely was, and he just threw away all of his ASF yet again. He does almost kill the Iwasa, but the Iwasa still kicking. He's dropping the bomb. Turn around, turn around, turn around. You need to turn around. Oh, that was such a late turnaround command. That was a... Ooh. At least it takes out 2 more T3 mexes while it falls. But it falls deeply within the territory of the wreck. And critically, there's still no engineers over here for Weed Warrior to reclaim this. And I feel like that's going to be the story of this game. The wreck is continuing to reclaim. He has so many engineers out on the field. Just brutal the way the wreck is grinding down Weed Warrior. Weed Warrior has a nuke loaded, but is he ever going to be able to really use it? Is the question. There's another anti-nuke now finished for the wreck. He now has engineers being built over here. That's going to be cleaned up, though. It's 3 chickens versus 2, but the 2 chickens have a lot of sniper bots to help them out. And now the engineers show up. You can see that the Iwasa... It was just taking up all of his APM, all of his focus. We're going to have to see if that costs him, or if he does get out here in time to start handling this. He is getting out a lot of chickens very quickly, and he does have an economic advantage. So once he starts getting this reclaim, he's going to be in a very strong position. But it's 3 chickens versus 3 chickens and sniper bots. And all of the chickens right now for Weed Warrior are full HP pretty much. So if he just walks forward, he wins this. Even pulling out Focus Fire. Throwing one of his the lowest health chicken forward. He's going to try and separate it away. And he does separate it successfully. But all of those chickens for the wreck are now down, and he's not building anymore. He's instead going for a T3 artillery installation. But has he invested too much into that to hold on the ground? These chickens should have free range. Pun intended, it just walks in. Now Strat Bomber's coming out for Weed Warrior. He might be thinking of getting rid of some of these anti-nukes. Another drop over here in the north of 4 Othams. Oh, will the Nothas lock on? They do, but not fast enough. And now with 3 chickens pushing forward, I mean, He has air control, he has ground control, he just needs to push. He needs to push and put all of this advantage he's built to himself to good work. Sure, there's a lot of Othams over here, but still, I don't think there's enough to stop all of these chickens, especially with the sniper bots. They're just going to sit back here, and each volley will take out more and more Othams. Needs to be careful, though. These T1 bombers could help deal with those sniper bots. He's built up a few strat bombers, and if he can use those to get rid of an anti-nuke and use the chickens to get rid of the other, this is all but done and dusted. And the chickens are walking in. Here come all of the Othams. A strategic launch was detected. Do they focus down the SMD? They need to, if he wants that nuke to have a chance of landing. He's trying to nuke the Hubbatham artillery installation. And that artillery is about to land for the first time. Is this anti-nuke loaded? No, it's not! And oh no! It's a disaster! For the wreck, all of that investment, and the wreck is so salty about that. And in come the chickens. They kill off the air grid. And with that, I think the wreck has been bested. And he control Ks. He's an angry boy. Thank you all so much for watching. You've been beautiful. This is Willow, signing off.